So guys, I've just seen the first 3 episodes of Gen V, and honestly, I think fans of Amazon's The Boys are going to love this. I have to start with that right off the bat. And it's an interesting thing to observe because I know most of you are aware of Gen V. Maybe you've seen a trailer or two. It still felt like I didn't see like a bunch of marketing for this show, but I didn't really see so much hype generated around it. And I kind of get that in some way because I felt somewhat apprehensive myself. Sometimes spin-offs naturally aren't always as intriguing at first glance as the popular show is spun off from, but don't make the mistake of sleeping on Gen V. Trust me. So with that being said, right off the bat, this is going to be my somewhat review highlighting the biggest moments from that of the first 3 episodes and give my overall first impressions towards the end. I don't have time to kind of do the regular breakdown format of the week-to-week thing because that would, this is 3 episodes dropping at once, so that would be like a 3-hour video from me. But with the first 3 episodes, there's certainly quite a bit to get into, especially with a certain mystery that's going on at GodU. So let me know if you want to see the somewhat regular breakdown week to week for Gen V. I would be more than happy to do that if you guys are interested. So Gen V is a series set in between The Boys season 3 and 4 at America's only college for superheroes, known as Godolphin University or GodU, which is a play on the idea of course, that supes are pretty much godlike. I mean, depending on the soup, I suppose, because there's quite a few weird power sets out there that I don't know if that would be described as godlike. But we do get slight references to the events cooking in the background to the next season for The Boys, with these occasional snaps from the news throughout the episodes talking about the trial of Homelander after brutally murdering an innocent protester, and his lawyers saying that he stood his ground, and other people talking about how autographed Maeve merch is blowing up in price after her death. Obviously, above that, there is a bunch of Easter eggs here and there between that of The Boys, or even somewhat character cameos in the sense of pre-recorded footage, if you will. But to jump right into the very beginning, the very first scene introduces you to Marie Moreau in an 8-year flashback, in where her family are watching A-Train joining the Seven for the first time on their TV. Now, this is where things get nuts, because the thing is, this is where Marie's superpowers come to fruition, because she gets her first period, and given her powers that allow her to control blood, that we've called blood bending before here on the channel, this next scene, right from the get-go, for sure has that signature The Boys universe signature. You could say that. Let's just say I can't even show it on screen because of monetization reasons, and it ends up with the death of both of Marie's parents due to her not knowing how to, control her blood powers. Things just end up in freaking blood shrapnel, blood freaking blades being sent out. Now, what's really tragic about this, on top of how tragic that was and WTF that was, is that her sister immediately afterwards sees all of this, and this is what somewhat introduces us to the core drive for Maria's character, and where she wants to prove to her sister and herself that through becoming a superhero, she isn't a monster. And this also highlights a theme that's been touched on in the Boys universe quite a bit already, where, the parents of Supes agree to have them injected with Compound V as a baby against their will, and the child is left with these powers whether they like them or not. Some people love them, some people find them very debilitating, some people have a mixed relationship with them. Either way, some parents have argued in the past that they wanted the best for their kids, but then at other times it's been very transparent how exploitative this has been, and they just really kind of want to make money off their kids, even if they don't want to be honest about it with themselves. And we've seen this before, for example, with, of course, Starlight's mother, and this only really gets further leaned on in Gen V, with the show highlighting it in even more unique ways, particularly with the other main characters that we're introduced to. And I have to say right off the bat, I really, really enjoy the cast of this show. I feel like each one of them is really unique. I like the relationships between the characters. I say it was apprehensive, and I wasn't expecting bad quality because, I enjoy The Boys, so I didn't expect this to be terrible, but I thought being on like a college campus, a university, maybe the characters, it would be a bit cliche or tropey at points, but now that there's quite deep stories here, such as Marie's roommate, Emma, who has the ability to shrink like Termite from the boys, but unlike Termite, she has to cause herself to vomit in order to shrink, and then eat again to grow in size. So she has to constantly monitor her calories to remain in balance, as she puts it, or as her mother puts it. And as we get further along in the story, she reveals that her mother even taught her, how do I say this, how to go about doing that. So again, really leaning into the whole parental theme that we explored with Annie in The Boys. But then we also have Kate, who has the ability to control people with her command after touching them. And when she first came into her powers as a child, after her brother annoyed her, she wished him to go away and never come back. And he never did. And then after that, her parents would never touch her again. Then there is Jordan, who is a bi-gender supe and is able to change on the spot. We see that they view this ability as a gift, whereas Jordan's father is very unaccepting of that and seems to wish that he could take back giving them Compound V, as he views it anything but a gift. And then we also have Andre, who is the son of a famous supe, or has-been supe, Polarity. And that means he has the pressure of big shoes to fill, and his powers are pretty awesome because he can manipulate metal. And there's a fine example of that a little bit later on, which it gets very, very bloody. The plot really kicks off 8 years later from Marie's origin, as Marie is at the Red River Institute, which is an orphanage for supes, which you may remember from The Boys when Huey went to visit, where she's been staying since the death of her parents. Now, she gets accepted into Godolphin University, which is going to be the main location of the series. And we're introduced to Dean Indira Shetty with a very cheesy advertisement video for the university. She promotes the uni through talking about the core curriculum of hero ethics and, of course, understanding branding. The different majors, such as the Crimson Countess for performing arts. I'd like to think that they don't recommend education through that of the Chimps Don't Cry video, because I don't know how much that will really take you forward in life. Maybe it will. What do I know? Maybe that is a #1 song. There's also the Lamplighters School of Crime Fighting, in where every top 10 ranked student from the past 30 years went on to protect all of America's great cities. But the thing is, this is what I really wanted to get to. Not everything is as it seems at God U. On top of all the surface level glitz and glam of supe life that Vought is attempting to instill in its students, in where they're also competitive to succeed, as only 5 kids a year score a city contract, there is something sinister hiding underneath the university known as the Woods. And it seems as though throughout the duration of season 1, this is what we're going to be diving into and finding out exactly what is going on here. Now, this is arguably the biggest thing that we're teased with in episode 1, in that with Luke, also known as Golden Boy, of whom's powers are a bit like, I guess you could say, the Human Torch, his brother Sam has been kept at this facility. Now, we first saw him when he escaped in episode 1, but he quickly got apprehended again and returned to the Woods, given the help of Andre and Marie, who didn't really realize who he was or what was going on at the time, so this will probably only further unite them after the end of episode 3 to get him out of there. Now, as the episodes unfold, we learn that he has schizophrenia, and we see him in a 3-year flashback before his death was faked. Now, in this flashback, he was losing control after learning that supes were created through Compound V, which we saw go public in The Boys, wondering why his parents, would do that to him and his brother. And throughout this kind of frustration and this outburst, he ended up killing one of the guards. So it's likely that supes who are sent to the Woods are ones that they deem as too dangerous to be around other people. And from the brief glimpse that we saw of the Woods, it looks like they are being experimented on there. Now, this is the question. What kind of experiments are going on? What is the purpose? Also, I said they, like who they deem as dangerous. Who are they? Well, those who know about the Woods are, of course, Clancy Brown's Professor Brinkerhoff, who seemed to be a big part of this shady program, and he described himself as an expert on supes with years of research, having written books on them, even guiding some of them into the 7. So perhaps he felt like he could correct some of them there, or take advantage of supes who they view as, I don't know, like written off. But given Brink's death at the end of episode 1 through the hug of that of Golden Boy, he doesn't seem to be the only one who is high up there, because we also have Dean Indira Shetty, who we see is very hands-on in this shady operation, and Ashley, of whom we're very familiar with from The Boys, very aware of what the woods is and describes it as a potentially fatal problem if exposed. So this is a very much so Vought-led off the books facility. And at first, I was viewing it as that they maybe wanted to experiment and again, perhaps correct supes that they view of whom have potential and would rather try and control what they view as their product in hopes to maybe use them as a show pony again one day. But then I realized, would Vought really put that much effort into trying to rehabilitate them? I don't think so. So obviously this is more sinister than that. Also, that theory wouldn't really make much sense since they, after all, faked Sam's death. So perhaps it really is more about this experimental tinkering here and there, and where they view it as, what do they have to lose? If we've already written them off, already faked their death, what can we use them for? So with the way that Vought runs, it is likely that they view them as defective products, if you will, and they use them for this somewhat research and development into whatever it is next that comes into the company. Maybe they're somewhat stripping down supes, giving them drugs to see what is effective against them, what can maybe make their powers void just in case they want to go up against a certain supe one day, such as, I don't know, taking down Homelander. We know that Luke was given new meds when Emma snuck into the facility in episode 3, so perhaps they're trying to learn how to control supes who could be deemed as dangerous, or maybe enhance them, or like there's even a moment where I was suspicious of Dean Shetty when she was having like brunch or something with Marie, and she was like kind of staring at her. She was like, "Oh yeah, go and eat," and she was like, Have you noticed that every single time Dean Shetty is with Marie, there's always like this close-up shot where she's just staring at her very suspiciously? So maybe I'm getting too far into theory territory here, but maybe she was giving her something in that food. But I'm probably going a little bit off course there. I'd love to know what your theories are there with what kind of experiments could be taking place and exactly what they're using it for. Regardless though, after Golden Boy's death, in where he, before that, had a ticket to pretty much getting into the 7, he even had this sick looking suit being made for him. I actually really enjoyed seeing Andre and Kate look into this deeper mystery going on at God U. Especially Andre's character, of whom's family seems to be also quite complicated. As I mentioned earlier, his father is yet another one of those parents, in where he is somewhat, I guess you could say, living vicariously through his son from the glory days of his time as a supe. But we can also perhaps call Andre's dad one of them, if you will, behind that of the Woods. Because when Andre revealed to his dad that he is trying to be a hero, forsaking all of the show pony ass kissing to get his student ranking score up, his dad seemed to know exactly what the Woods was. And that was a bit like a, oh, kind of moment, which makes things very fascinating for both of these characters moving forward. How much is Andre's father going to get in the way? Is he going to eventually end up helping them? Or is this going to end up in maybe a gruesome death for one of them? Since it seems that anyone who knows about the Woods, and if that information gets out, then you pretty much end up dead, like that college janitor who saw the guards going into the secret doorway down to the Woods. He didn't last 2 seconds. But going back to Marie's story, I do like the journey we're going on with her character. She's quite literally come from a place of being an orphan, having no phone, to being thrust into the supe spotlight. The episodes see her grow in popularity quite fast after she used her powers to save this woman's life in a club after that WTF moment with Andre almost killing her. She even gets into the top 10 student ranking at God U, which I assume we're going to see her rank up more and more throughout the show, because all while there's this mystery going on with the Woods, I would still expect the somewhat competitive nature of ranking up in the top 10 to take place. But I do wonder with Marie's character if her long-term arc will be through her experience of navigating the competitive and exploitive supe world, that she'll come to terms with her past trauma and realize that the past isn't her fault and basing her future on a motivation that isn't necessarily dictated by her past. And revisiting the core drive with regards to her sister, I do wonder if her sister actually even views her as a monster. After all, what the news reporter said to Marie right before giving the interview might not even be true. And as Dean Shetty said, it could have just been news to get a reaction out of Marie. But with Dean Shetty saying that, I'm kind of wondering, do you know something about Marie's sister? Also, I wonder, would Marie be the only child out of her family to be given Compound V? How do we know that her sister doesn't have powers too? Now, I don't want to put a theory out there to the point of, oh my god, secretly Marie's sister is in the woods and Dean Shetty knows it all along. I don't want to get into that territory, even though it'd be kind of ridiculous if that did end up being true. But I feel like there's something weird going on there. Something weird. And I would love to know your theories as to what you think the somewhat end game is with regards to Marie and her sister. But with the way that episode 3 ended, with the guards coming into Sam's room and searching for Emma, and Andre going over to Jordan, Kate, and Marie, it looks like they're all going to be very on board with rooting out this larger corruption happening at God U, and possibly even exposing the woods to the world. But the thing is, Vought is a very, very, very dangerous place. And will the core group of characters be able to pull that off without painting such a large target on their backs? It seems as though there's a lot standing in their way, with Dean Shetty being heavily involved and being very deceptive, acting like she's very much so about the college, about helping Marie out, putting on a fake smile, but then marching right down there and just, sadistically looking at Sam getting experimented on. There's also Andre's father. There's the full force of the Vault guards sweeping in at a second's notice to clear up. All I know is that shite is going to get crazy from this moment forwards, the further that Kate, Jordan, Marie, and Andre dive down that rabbit hole. So all in all, guys, while I would have loved to have gone into much deeper detail, but I'm not used to 3 episodes dropping at once and me going into 3 hours worth of footage. I didn't have early access to this, so I watched it today. I just wanted to get my first impressions out to you, so I do apologize if I glossed over some details there. But I do want to say I was really, really impressed with the first 3 episodes. I thought it was an absolutely great way to catapult into this spin-off series. It really just does, and I hope you will agree, does maintain the makeup from that of The Boys, with the over-the-top crazy moments with frickin' Perfect Steve, or whatever his name was at the beginning, getting his arm ripped off, and all the other crazy WTF moments, and yet still gives you a story that covers a variety of different things within the soup world, all while giving you this really interesting new cast that I can happily say are all of them are quite compelling characters, at least for me in the first 3 episodes. There's not really one of them I was like, nah, I don't really care. So yeah, I really like all of them. I like the relationships that they have between each other. But I think my favorite at the moment, if I would have to pick, would be Emma. I think her journey in the first 3 episodes, I don't know what it is, I just felt most drawn to her. I think her character got leaned into quite a lot with what she's enduring, the relationship with her mother. I think she's really likable, funny, and just awesome. I'd also love to know your favorite character so far down in the comments. But I was, as I said at the beginning, just somewhat apprehensive going into Gen V, but they really have managed to blend in what we love about this universe, put it in its own setting, all while heavily referencing so many things in the Boys universe, so there's no shortage of Easter eggs there that I'd love to get into in future videos. But it does it in a non-invasive way. What I mean is just like it's decent world building there that only further enriches the Boys universe. This doesn't feel like a debilitating side spin-off show. It's like, oh damn, this is actually like, this stands on its own 2 feet right alongside The Boys, dare I say it. And then there's the mystery of the woods. That is something that I think gives the series a really engaging start, with other characters such as Dean, Indira Shetty, that I'm looking forward to learning more about, and everything else that just extends back to Vault and how messed up that could get. Because if these 3 episodes were as enjoyable as what I've just experienced, and hopefully you as well, think how nuts things will just get from here on out. And speaking of nuts, there's probably going to be some literal ones in the future with some more grotesque stuff. Crazy moments with Emma going into shrunk mode, and hanging off that something, which I can't really get into because of monetization reasons. But my God, the boys' spirit is most certainly there. So I'm going to end my ramble there, guys. Would love to know what you thought of Gen V's first 3 episodes. Let me know down in the comments below. Let me know if you'd like me to do more of the traditional breakdown recap as of week to week, because that wasn't so much in this video, but I would be doing that with episode 4, 5, 6, etc. Give this video a like if you did enjoy it. Let me know. Support the channel. Would really deeply appreciate that. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.